After 8 long, strenuous years of calling myself a professional student, I finally joined the ranks of Western Washington University's class of 2018 with my degree in creative writing. Now let me tell you something, the last 2.5 years of school weren't really all that bad. I made some new friends, kicked off a sweet 3D modeling hobby, and dreamed up some killer ideas for potential games or sci-fi novels, and I got inspired enough to get this channel off the ground. All in all, it hasn't been that bad of an experience. But I have a message for all of you prospective college students or parents out there. If you want your kid to have a quality career and a useful set of skills, please send them anywhere but a university campus. Now, like I said, university wasn't all that bad. I think I can safely say that my experience at school wasn't as batshit insane as what you see in some videos going around online, with students losing their shit at the mere mention of conservative speakers on campus. I think after my 2.5 years, I can safely give you a little list of pros and cons for what to expect if you or your kid still wants to go to college. I'll try to avoid getting into the nitty-gritty of how screwed up my course materials are for some individual classes. Now, I have to throw this disclaimer in there. This is not true for all colleges, but this is purely based on what I experienced while I was there, and I think it's a better gauge than just going in blind. The first good thing that college has going forward is the social life. You're bound to make some friends at school, and likely friends for life, even if you happen to drift apart. I've met some fantastic people at college, made some great friends and memories, and met a couple not-so-friendly roommates, but by and large, you're guaranteed to find at least someone you can hang with in your off time. College also gives you a lot of extracurricular options with which to kill your spare time if you're not someone like me who spends all of his spare time either engrossed in a game or trying to come up with video content. There's clubs, there's talks, there's performing arts, all sorts of things for you to sharpen your skills or just blow steam off with those who share your interests. If you're like me, attending a major university, you'll often have plenty to do off-campus as well. Concerts, plays, comedy shows, poetry readings. All sorts of things were available along State Street. I sorta remember an impromptu pub crawl with some friends that I'd known since high school and who happened to be at Western, and we were out until almost midnight going from bar to bar for a pint of something or other before staggering back from downtown to the dorm and crashing for a solid 5 hours of sleep. Good times. The other thing is, college will also give you a really nice education. You will get something out of it. It doesn't matter what major it is that you're aiming for. Every university has something you need if you want a decent job. Of course, that's something you've probably heard since middle school. Unlike a more focused technical or trade school, university is something I'd say that's better suited to someone who isn't sure what they want to do yet. And the same is true of community college. You have a vast number of options for majors at your disposal. Hell, Western had a dental hygiene major, and I didn't even realize Western had a program for dentists. That sort of leeway lets you explore a little bit in your early years, something I wish I'd had when I was at DigiPen. At a private technical school, you don't always have that wiggle room if you decide to change up career paths, which in my case meant starting over from square one with absolutely no transferable credits. Hence, it took me 8 years for a BA instead of the usual 4. At a university, you can mix and match courses at your leisure, kind of, and tailor your schedule to get what you want out of your education. And here we move on to the cons. Now, just talking about coursework and course load and all that, GOR courses are probably the worst thing. The variety that college offers up for classes does come with its own set of drawbacks in the form of General University Requirements, or GURs. These are a set of general education courses intended to provide you with a well-rounded part to your degree. Most of these I found are a complete waste of time or otherwise irrelevant to the major you're pursuing. Why should a computer science student be made to take a course on gender studies? Why does a drama major need a chemistry class? Okay, sure, it makes you a little more varied in your skill set, but these things don't really relate to each other, which means, generally, students will be far less interested in them and less invested in those courses. Of course, these classes are a requirement, so there's no getting around them, at least while you're there. If you want my advice, skip these by going to community college for an AA or DTA built around your desired major. Community college is like university, but far cheaper, so if you're unsure of what you want to pursue for a degree, a community college will allow you to experiment with options for about half the cost of a university course. Now, a community college won't necessarily offer the same courses to meet the GURs if you only transfer in with a handful of credits. Go in with an AA or DTA and you can kiss those GURs goodbye. Fuck being required to take gender studies or multicultural literature. I don't even know why these are courses in the fucking first place. And now, we have the main reason as to why you shouldn't send your kids to university.
This is what happens when you don't take your meds. This is why I don't believe in the legalization of marijuana. This is exactly why I don't believe in the legalization of marijuana. Right here on the Western Washington campus, she's going nuts with the Trump sign. With the Trump sign. She doesn't like the Trump sign.
Is it okay if you stop? Oh no, there you go. Because it sounds really, I thought something was wrong. So yeah, I'm cool though. But no one else knows that.
She's anti-Trump.
I think it's safe to say that there's a bend to the left on university campuses that's so sharp you could cut fucking diamonds with it. That clip I just played is an example of the sort of behavior that was not really expected, but certainly encouraged by some of the more artistically minded students, and professors too. Not many students really liked Sign Man there, though it was clear he was at least willing to talk to us, but this? The fuck sort of response is this? You know, I can remember the day after the 2016 election where everyone except me was sulking about campus, all simultaneously looking like their puppy had just died the night before. A group of students with hair of varying unnatural colors was standing around the fountain in Red Square underneath a light drizzle, holding up cardboard signs and chanting, "Not my president." I'd never felt so alone, and at the same time so confident that I'd pulled the right lever. I've gone to classes on writing fiction only to have my professors lecture me on how worried they are about gay marriage being overturned underneath a Republican president. Never mind that he believes it's a decided issue. Some instructors would stand at the front of the class and openly advocate for state-enforced wealth redistribution, and tenured staff would complain to us about how the rich were paying too little in taxes compared to what they made. In an in-depth course on grammar, we spent an entire fucking 2-hour class period on a presentation about speech patterns in the gay community. You're out! Now look, I got nothing against anyone or their sexual orientation. Look, you do you, but is this really the most productive thing for class? Really? Is it really? These sort of not really all that relevant political rants were met with nods, or in my case, silence, as I hadn't developed the guts to speak my mind. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. But I can remember sitting there and wondering how much of the other side these teachers had actually seen. Everything in my literary theory course tied into us doing something on the behalf of this community or that community, with a sort of passive dismissal of the individual. Our writing prompts for this course were largely based on postmodern philosophy, which most of the class couldn't even follow, or for that matter, accepted as some sort of, almost like a religion. It was just like, oh yes, no, this is right, we haven't considered this before, so it must be true because we've never heard it before. When you read a 20-page essay on socialist feminism, and not once is the term socialist feminism, this is a hyphenated term, defined anywhere in the essay, something's wrong there. Something is very, very wrong there. Some of this postmodern philosophy was just so out there, so unintuitive, it's such a leap of logic that I couldn't see why we had to read this. We had to read Roland Barthes' Death of the Author. I know that's one a lot of people have had to read. And when he goes on and on about how the audience's interpretation of a body of work is more important than what the writer intended, that doesn't make any sense to me. If someone comes to me and says, your Vietnam War story is really about the patriarchy, no, it's not. It's about a guy who loses his best friend at Khe Sanh. You can't tell me what my book is supposed to mean. You can't tell me what my work means or is supposed to mean, and you can't tell me that I have no say in what my work means. That doesn't add up. That just flies in the face of creative writing entirely. One of them cited the Huffington Post and CNN as unbiased news, telling us to stay away from Breitbart and Fox News. Oh, how evil. Another praised Marx almost endlessly, going so far as to require the class to read a section of the Communist Manifesto. I can recall going through that line by line and thinking, great, but how does any of this apply to today? I'd later end up reading the entire thing just to get an idea of how out of touch this professor was with the world around them. It's also worth mentioning this was the same professor who spent a full day lecturing us on how tampons were a sexist product because all the marketing is geared towards women. You know, the only fucking consumer demographic that uses the damn things. Hell, the school couldn't even have a fucking commencement speech without an opening pontification on how we need more gun control, with the keynote speaker delivering a speech about altruism being the key to happiness. Fuck, it's no wonder I started reading Rand and Solzhenitsyn. Now, I don't know about you, but I can only be fed the same socialist, Marxist, feminist, whatever ist opinions you want to list off. I can only take those for so long before I start to get curious about what the other side has to say. And trust me, a lot of professors do not want you to be that curious. I know, I said I'd try to avoid course material, and I'm getting a little pissed off about this, but God damn it, did the constant virtue signaling and pleas for unquestionable tolerance ever get under my skin. Point is, at least in my experience, the university is one giant political echo chamber. I am a little biased because I picked one of the humanities as my major instead of science, and I'm sure that's not going on in the CS or engineering departments nearly as much. But if those kinds of politics are your cup of tea, I'm sure you'll fit right in. If you're someone like me, who's very curious and a bit more skeptical of the things your professors say, you might see things as a bit more hostile or unwelcoming. If you ask me, gone are the days of these hallowed halls of education being the bastions of not only free speech, but free thought, far as I'm concerned. You see this? Take a good look. This is what the university considers to be its free speech zone. A fucking whiteboard is the only place where you're permitted to express your thoughts. Everywhere else, you're expected to pipe down and shuffle off to class, while students around you hold up signs demanding for ICE to be disbanded, while asking perplexingly stupid questions like, are humans illegal? This collectivist, label-tossing culture is exactly what I sought to avoid. I had no intention of the activism machine turning me into a sign-shaking Winston Smith. If that's the future you want, then I won't stop you. But I strongly suggest that you take this into consideration. 2 and 2, no matter who tells you how socially constructed numbers are, will never make 5. Thank you so very much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe for more content, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, or leave me a comment to let me know about your own thoughts on the matter. Good hunting to you, and I'll see you on the next one.